Hey Airheads! This week's episode of Aficionados Internet Radio is made possible by my supporters on Patreon. If you would like to be a part of the production, visit patreon.com/aficionadoschris and select the reward tier that appeals to you. Your support helps keep the channel going and content plentiful. Now, let's start the show.
Hey Airheads! Aficionados Chris here. You're listening to Aficionados Internet Radio. Aficionados Chris.
Hey everybody, Aficionados Chris here, and welcome to another episode of Aficionados Internet Radio. And I have one of the funniest people working, not just in his field, but in the wonderful world of YouTube. Genuinely one of the funniest creators that I've been watching very recently. Only found out about him about a couple months ago through some friends, and I can't wait to share him with you. He's a fantastic voice actor, funny comedian. We got PM Seymour. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. You know, you didn't have to lie to them. You could have just said I was not funny. They would have accepted it. Like, yeah, it's fair. Okay, I've seen his stuff. It's not that great.
I mean what I say. Like, we'll get to those particular videos later on, because I really want to start at the beginning, because I've interviewed quite a few voice actors. What I want to know is where that began. So what was the thing, maybe you were young or something just clicked in your brain? What was the thing that inspired you to be like, I want to have a career in voiceover?
So there were two things that actually kind of started that. So the thing that I never realized this is what I wanted to do is because when I was a kid, I was sort of like the black sheep of my school. Nobody really wanted to hang out with me because I was goofy and awkward and weird. And I wasn't, because I live in upstate New York. So it's either you are either a sports guy or a farm guy. And I'm a geek guy. So that just did not click with anybody whatsoever.
Yeah.
So on bad days, I kind of would just escape into cartoons and video games, and they just made me feel a lot better. And it was like at that time where voice acting was still kind of fresh for video games, but like we had like Tiny Toons and Animaniacs. You had all of these like great cartoons that just made you feel good no matter what.
Oh yeah.
So they just made me feel nice. And then when I got into high school, I actually joined theater troupe, and that was like my first ever true acting experience. And I wouldn't even want to call that acting experience because it was like me and three other people. So it was hard to read a room sometimes. But we did one stage performance for school, and I felt very self-conscious about being on stage because I was also a much bigger man at the time. So I was talking to the theater troupe directors, like, is there anything that I could do where I could still act, but they can't see me whatsoever? He's like, well, we could set up a mic in the back and you can kind of play like a voice of God sort of thing. Like, that's a job. Like, yeah. It's voiceovers. Haven't you watched cartoons? And like that was the realization, like, oh my God, I could do this. So after high school, I started looking into it more. And like during my first few years of college, I was looking for like easy budget setups because I had $100 to my name. So it was like rocking headsets for a while I was still trying to get my feet wet. And then it sort of just grew from there. Like now I have a studio, a full rig and everything. And then I sit back and realize like this, if I told 19-year-old me like what I was going to invest into, he'd be like, no, man, please don't do that. I swear we do not have that kind of money.
Basically, you found out it was a job by trying to hide yourself in an acting course.
Exactly. And then I think what drove me to want to be a voice actor more is I wanted to give the black sheeps of this generation and the next generation sort of like that little character that they can look to when they need to feel better. And I sort of do that publicly now as a comedian, just sort of like be a more positive force with my comedy. It's like more wholesome content because I just want those black sheeps out there to know that they're going to be okay.
We usually save the inspirational stuff for last, so you're already ahead of the curve.
I'm sorry, I can't help it.
But with that, so basically, like you said, you start off in theater with your voiceover stuff. Once you found out that, oh, I can do this for a living, were there any kind of maybe industry professionals or typical voiceover actors or performers that you took inspiration from to kind of hone your craft and make it better?
Yeah.
Perhaps?
Yeah, there were a couple that like a lot of the people in the bigger tops. James Arnold Taylor has always been a big inspiration of mine, and I didn't realize how many cartoons and games he was in until the internet was a more powerful force where you can actually look this stuff up. Because at the time they weren't really crediting the voice actors in some video games because it's like, why would they? It's 2003. We don't do that. But I found out he like voiced so many of my favorite characters from like Tales of Symphonia, a lot of like game characters. He vocal understudied for Obi-Wan Kenobi with like Ewan McGregor's voice. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's fantastic. I love him. He's my entire childhood. The other two big ones were, I always butcher her last name. Tress McNeil. She has been basically every cartoon in existence right now, from like The Simpsons, Futurama. I think she did a couple of bits for Family Guy, but it's like she's just like, I think she like 98% of like the female cast on The Simpsons.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, she was a dog on Animaniacs as well.
Yeah, that's right. She was. And then this one is sort of just like really, Pat. But Seth MacFarlane at the time when I was a teenager, just because he was so versatile with his voice too, like also being like 98% of the cast of Family Guy.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. I liked him just because he got the impression part of me. I wanted to like study impressions more, just how versatile he was. And then when I got into the internet voice acting, there were 4 people that really kind of inspired me to keep going. Devin Mack, D-Mac Double, Kira Buckland, most people knew her as Rena Chan back in the day, Kim Latron, and Aaron Ego Raptor Hansen. They're fantastic talents. Like Aaron definitely inspired me to, when I need to exaggerate, because sometimes it'll really, really pay off.
And I think the irony of that is I'm pretty sure a lot of people have probably told you have a voice that sounds pretty close to JonTron. So there is like irony there.
Yes. I get that comment probably like every single day I upload a video.
That's probably simply because you're a New Yorker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I get really into a game, I end up starting to do New York accents. It's like, okay, John, let's calm down. But I'm extremely grateful for Devin and Kimlin though, because at the time when I was still starting, I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing and improving, and they took me to the side and they gave me like the really right guidance. And I feel like I would not be where I am now without the tips that they gave me at the time. So Devin, Kim, if you're listening, thank you for everything, really.
I hope so too. I do think it's amazing that you also brought in some of the internet-based voice actors, because there's a plethora of those.
Yeah,
really talented ones out there that don't really get the spotlight.
Yeah, I noticed the industry's sort of changing, where like a lot of people that are kind of in the anime stuff now were like internet voice actors at the time. So it's one of those, there are people that were committed to going into the main industry as soon as they were like, I wouldn't say done with the internet, but not having be their primary source of income.
I knew something changed when I started seeing Kira in like real stuff. And I'm like, I had her in a cartoon years ago. What the hell?
So, as soon as I saw Kira in Nier Automata, I was like, I am so proud of you right now.
Now, with that, moving into, because at least from looking through your resume that I noticed and your demo reel, you have a variety of different kinds of roles you've had. You've done comedic roles as well as some rather serious roles. Is there a particular type of role maybe you prefer to play over another?
You know, I think the preferences just kind of keep flip-flopping around to me. Like, there's times where I'll get like an endless stream of dramatic stuff. I'm like, I would really like to go back to being funny now, please and thank you. But then I'll do too much funny stuff. I'm like, okay, I want to do a serious thing now. I'm really scared I'm just going to be seen as a comedic talent. And honestly, I felt like that for a while since I started becoming a lot more active on YouTube, just because, you know, you're reading for Tumblr and Discord posts and there's no way you can take that stuff seriously most of the time. So you read it off as comedic and then you sit there and I'm like, am I just a comedian now? What am I doing? And I need a dramatic performance now. And luckily I got that recently for one of the shows I'm in. They're taking a darker direction. Main character's dad, I also play him. He is my go-to dramatic guy, because at this point there is nothing comedic he says at all. He is a brooding old man.
So basically it's you'd like a healthy balance of sorts.
Basically, yeah. I mean, I could have just said that, but I like to ramble.
Well, you have to ramble. It's a podcast. I need to fill up that time. I because I've also heard from people that like, well, I prefer to play villain roles over hero roles. So that kind of stuff fascinates me, especially when someone like you who has again, a wide range where it's like you could play a hero or a villain with the voice that you have and the voices that you can do. So it's kind of great to, have those kind of roles open to you. So it doesn't like pin you down to you're just the funny guy or you're just the anime brooding protagonist.
I got to do what I can to not fall into a typecast.
Now, with that, I think it's best that you brought up, we have to talk about, which is you have a rather popular series on YouTube called It Came from Tumblr, which for people who may or may not know listening, it's basically a series where you either find or are sent Tumblr posts that you read out loud, sort of reenact with funny voices, or depending on the context, a dramatic voice, if that adds to the comedy. I'm curious as to how did that come about?
Well, kind of played it off like that. I mean, you ever just see posts that are like, my God, did you want to read that out loud before you decided to share that to the world? The internet doesn't delete that sort of thing. And that's kind of how like the first video ever really started with It Came from Tumblr. I just sort of like set up the mic to record and like just started digging through like late night Tumblr posts. I'm like, oh my God, how does it sound out loud? And then I just kind of took the best ones and meshed them into a video. And I was like, I wonder if the internet will like this. Upload. And then lo and behold, it became one of the most popular series that I do. And I still have no clue as to why. It is such a very, very bizarre series.
Well, I think there's there's probably like a train wreck element to it, like a Schadenfreude is like, well, the world's a terrible, weird place, and it's great to have someone read it out loud and kind of point out, isn't that ridiculous? Like, what the hell? And it's funny, like it for me, like I actually have a lot of friends where that's kind of a tradition, is that when you upload a new one, we immediately have to watch it. So
oh my God,
you've become sort of a video tradition of, there's a new It Came from Tumblr, we got to watch it. So I think the same probably applies to a lot of other people that watch, especially since binge watching is a thing.
Oh yeah,
and you have quite a few binge compilations.
Yeah, because I'm shocked at how many people have messaged me privately saying, I would listen to your voice for hours. I'm like, I'm pretty sure there's something I can do with this. Because I won't lie, I binge watch, and I always get bugged by like when an ad just sort of stops my good vibes when I'm focusing on something. I'm like, all right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to upload a binge comp, and you're going to get an ad at the beginning and the end, and that's it. There's no cuts. You can do whatever you want with this. They were extremely thankful for that. It's because now you get like straight 20 minutes of absolute nonsense while you do homework. I don't know why you'd be doing homework while listening to it, but I've been told people do it with that. So, all right.
Probably to break the monotony, just to have a crazy guy in their right ear laughing at some terrible Tumblr post.
Or like the recent video where it's just like, hey, while you're doing homework, I'm going to talk about mainstream Homestuck for a second. You have fun with that.
I think it's also because depending on the context, you also have a rather calming voice, so that probably helps. Because I know ASMR is a thing, so yeah, probably that. It's especially those shower thoughts thing.
That's probably as close as my channel is ever gonna get to like true ASMR. I tried to do it in the past, but like, I think whispering into the mic is one thing. Like that's like very uncomfortable, but like you just leave a nice calming presence to help people relax and chill. That's actually kind of fun to listen to. It's like sort of a Bob Ross sort of thing.
And the great thing about a series like that, you'll never run out of material because Tumblr will always be a travesty of a website.
That's why when people were scared, like, oh my God, what if Tumblr dies? What are you going to do? I'm like, there is so much information right now on Tumblr that I could utilize that I could probably have 30 videos planned before if the site ever disappeared.
We never know, but there's a treasure trove in there.
Yes.
Now, moving away from that, because once again, for people who don't know that show, go check it out. I'll definitely link one of the binge compilations in the description because it's funny stuff. Going back to your voiceover stuff, something else I've also been curious about is that with the plethora of roles you've had, is there a role that you personally are like, you know what, I'm proud I was playing that character, or that was a lot of fun? Like, what's a role to you that's always kind of stuck with you?
So this one's probably going to sound predictable just because it's a very popular show. It's Travis for AFMouse channel. And the reason is I've been voicing Travis for 3 years now, and probably getting close to 4 as the year winds down. And that sort of character, when you voice a character for that long, they become a part of your life. You start taking their problems home with you. You grow and learn with them, and as like a series, because eventually the show has to end at some point. So you just want to keep playing the character and sort of get them to that spot at the end of the show that they're gonna be okay. Like they're gonna be fine on their own, because that's the weird theory I have with like sitcom shows is the show always has to go on. Like characters don't seem to ever get a true happy ending because of like season renewals or anything like that. So they have like one good moment and then suddenly they're back into the chaos. So that's the thing I'm hoping with like a role like Travis is eventually at the end he's gonna get a good thing and I'll walk away feeling extremely proud that like I helped him get to the end of his story. And I'm granted I'm still very proud of him because at the beginning of the show, he was just basically the living epitome of a club boy. That's really what he was. He was just hitting on everything in existence. And now he is sort of this character that understands his mistakes. He's trying to get through them, and he wants to be a stronger person at the end of it. And I don't know, I grew along with him while that happened. So yeah, Travis is the role I'm definitely really proud of.
I love hearing stories like that, especially when it's characters that develop over time and you basically get to live through that character and watch him grow into, or her, depending on who I'm talking to, watch that character develop and grow as you grow. I think that stuff's great. And with that same thought, is there a project, be it a game, anime, show, or what have you, that same would apply you're really proud of being a part of?
Yes. This is surprisingly, this is the role that got me Travis in the first place. A few years ago, I was helping out my friend Michaela Laws. She also does a lot of stuff on YouTube, if you haven't seen her. She had a video-driven spin-off series based on Honey Pop. But the twist is all the interactive characters were male instead of female. So I provided the voice for the Cupid character Q, and he also was just this big, absolute thirsty club boy with the most flamboyant costume in existence, and I loved every bit of recording for him because basically Michaela said, "Here's his character, go nuts, just have fun with him," and I absolutely did. He is a ball to record for every time. Unfortunately, the series has kind of died down because Michaela is working on a whole bunch of other stuff. But I'm hoping now that Honey Pop is a sequel coming up, that Q gets to play just a little bit more on YouTube. So we'll see. If I get a call for that, I'll be so excited.
It's like you, Fabian Typecast. You're constantly the Playboy flirt. No, I guess.
This is the weird thing: is I don't have a typecast for personalities. I have a typecast for hair. I voice probably 30 white-haired characters now. And probably going on 31. It's just absolutely insane. It's like to the point where, like, because as I'm getting older, I'm noticing more white hairs in my beard. I'm like, oh god, it's a white hair, guys. It's even taking over my face.
You're gonna have to commit to that eventually.
Yeah,
Steve Martin your hair to reflect all those characters you played.
Oh, if I do that, my Irish mom is going to hunt me down and scold me until the end of my days.
We've talked about some of your proudest roles, your proudest projects. Let's talk within reason and legality, the future of where we can hear PMC more and other stuff. Is there any upcoming projects, be them games, shows, internet broadcasts, whatever, that you're able to talk about that you can share that we can be looking forward to?
This is always the folly of being a voiceover talent, because the really fun projects are still the ones that I cannot say.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the one that I'm really excited for, just because it's one of those really dramatic episodes, is the upcoming one for Afmao's channel. I think it's episode 15. They're going at it very slowly, but the pieces I've been reading for are pretty dang dramatic. And then I have one character that hopefully at the end of the month I can talk about. We're still trying to figure out what's okay and what's not okay to say. But when I do, I think people will be pretty damn surprised.
And that's basically all you can tell us about any
That's all I can say. I will say it's another white-haired role, but like, who's surprised? Who's really surprised?
You know what? That should just be your answer for every NDA. It's like, well, they have white hair, probably.
It's like,
look for a white hair role.
I wait for the day if I say that, then I get a call from the client like, hey, listen, he's no longer white hair, he's blue-haired. I just told 500,000 people he's got white hair. Why do you do this to me?
We have just run right through these. It's been an amazing little trip through your start, your current career, and your future. Obviously, there's a lot of people out there that are like, either listening to you or watching current cartoons and anime and going, I want to be a voice actor. Or maybe they go to a theater class and find out it's a thing just because they want to hide. So what would be for you the best kind of advice that you can give to such an aspiring person that they want to get into that same career?
All right. So remember, guys, at the end of the day, we are artists. It's hard to think that just because a lot of stuff we do is goofy, but we're still artists. We're still creating. So whatever you can do, you got to surround yourself with inspiration and never stop making pieces. Like, even if you don't share your vocal performances online, keep them to yourself. Take notes, learn from them. Look back to like a track 30 times to figure out, well, I could do this differently, or I could slow this down, or I could speed this part up, or I could emote better on this. And if you also get the chance to learn from coaches who certainly have the chops to teach you how to act and emote and do all that, absolutely take those chances. I know it can be scary because the price tags are high, but you learn so much and you gain so many opportunities if you take those chances. And truly, do not give up on acting when things seem slow for you, because the truth of the matter is I will audition for probably about 30 to 50 things a day and not book a single one of those things. It's very slim chances in this field. But you don't give up, because many of the biggest actors in our field, they book their biggest roles from 30 to 40 years old. So your time will come. If you're not booking at 18, do not worry. You can still push on and you will get the big role. Trust me.
I think some of the best advice I've heard on the show so far. Some of them. We get a lot of good ones.
I try.
So I think it's great. And with that, wow, it's been quick, but I think it's been informative. I think it's been great talking to you. I've learned a lot. I've had some laughs. And there's definitely going to be more laughs with the continued series of It Came From Tumblr or Fun Facts with Discord. That would be another one I'd recommend you all check out. Really, just subscribe to PM Seymour. It's in the description. Check him out. Great content. I can't recommend him enough, really. And thank you again for joining me on the podcast.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Aficionados Chris